Steve, it's Miss Vicky Flanagan. Hello, my name is Vicky Flanagan. And today I'd like to talk about the power of story through the lens of Irish mythology and goddess Bóinn. So there are many creation stories of Ireland's sacred river Bóinn, all rooted in Irish mythology. And what I love about tuning into the energy of the land of Ireland is that it typically leads me back to mythological stories. And usually the themes that are explored in these stories support the energy of the sacred sites and the medicine that they hold. So the River Bóinn, it's known as Ireland's sacred river, and it's about 70 miles long. So it rises at Trinity Well in County Kildare, and then it meanders its way through County Offaly and Meath and Louth before it reaches and joins the Irish Sea. So of course, the River Bóinn has many purposes, and it is a fierce river current. So one of them teaches us to embrace the flow of life. That if we're willing to embrace our journey with courage and a deep faith and trust in where we're going, we will just naturally open up to beautiful opportunities for growth and for evolution, no matter what obstacles that we're facing. So by embracing the flow of life, we're bound to become more wise, more compassionate, and then with that can ripple out and nourish not only ourselves, but ripple out and nourish our community and the people that are around us. So it makes a really fruitful journey home. So Goddess Bóinn, she is the goddess of the River Bóinn. She's the goddess of water and fertility, poetry, and knowledge. And there's different versions of the creation story of the River Bóinn. And there's two that I'd like to share just for the theme that we're exploring. The more popular one, I think, is the story of Goddess Bóinn as the wife of Nectin, who in some legends was known as the leader of the Tuatha Dé Danann. And the Tuatha Dé Danann are more commonly known as like a supernatural race of mythical Ireland. So the Well of Wisdom was located in Nectin's garden, and that was also the home of the salmon of knowledge. So the well, no one was allowed to access this well or drink from this well, only Nectin and only his trusted cupbearers, because the well was known as obviously holding so much wisdom and knowledge. It was surrounded by 9 magic hazel trees. And as the hazelnuts fell into the well, that is what created the program for this wisdom. So by the magic hazelnuts falling into this well, then they were eaten by the salmon, which then contained the wisdom. So if you ate the hazelnuts that fell into the well, or the salmon who ate the hazelnuts, or if you drank the well water, you were known to be granted this wisdom and poetic inspiration. And again, it was forbidden for anyone other than Nectin to drink and approach the well even. So despite knowing this, that it was like forbidden, Nectin's wife Bóinn went to the well and she wanted to gain its knowledge for herself. And the well refused her. So Bóinn challenged the well, challenged its power by walking around it counterclockwise 3 times. And this caused the well water to surge up really violently and just kind of flood the land, and Bóinn was like swept away by the torrent. So she lost an eye, an arm, and a leg, and ultimately she lost her mortal life by becoming the River Bóinn. Another creation story, which I'm sure my telling the story won't do it justice. There's actually a really beautiful video on YouTube, which I'll maybe tag in this video as well. But Goddess Bóinn was put under a spell. This is the other creation story, one of the other versions that I just love, right? So Goddess Bóinn, she was put under a spell by Nectin, and that spell caused her to be stuck in the form of a well, and again at the foot of his garden, Carberry Hill. So her people were dying of hunger because the land was dry and infertile and no seeds could grow. So Bóinn really longed to become her true form again as the River Bóinn. She longed to be able to nourish her community, nourish the land. And this longing became so great that she was actually able to move the sun And by moving the sun counterclockwise, plucking a hazelnut from the hazel tree caused the well water to surge up again and overflow. So by this overflowing, she became the river Bóinn once again. She became her true original form once again, and was able to flow as the river Bóinn and nourish the land and create abundance for the community. So both stories are, both stories end in the creation of Ireland's sacred river that has many purposes that are and functions that are so important even today, thousands of years later, since these mythological stories. And when we look at just the power of story and how story can make us feel, it elicits different feelings or different emotions. And one of those stories, I think the first story is filled with more fear, control, greed, and in a sense like condemnation. So because Bóinn was acted out of maybe greed, and you could say, wanting that power for herself and like taking it, even though the well refused her, she found a way to take it. Then she was condemned to becoming the river. But yet she got what she wanted. She's immortal, and she's going to hold the magic or that program of wisdom, forever, to live for thousands of years. And it's that kind of nourishment and that wisdom that will help community. So the other story elicits more inspiration, feeling empowerment, feeling hopeful. It tells a story of devoting one's life or purpose to serve all life, and being brave enough to embody your true form, being brave enough to transform into another form that's more authentic, so that you can pour out and nourish not only yourself, but the land that you're from and also your community. So notice how both stories feel in your body. When you hear these stories, how do they make you feel? And water is formless. So water is going to take form of whatever container that it's in. So if we imagine that we're the container for our stories, and these stories flow through us and out into our lives, we have to ask ourselves, is the story that I'm telling, is it nourishing me? Is it nourishing my relationships? Is it helping to shape my purpose or even my dreams? So is your story of hope and inspiration? Is it empowerment, or does it breed fear and control and lack or scarcity? So I know most of us are carrying stories that are no longer serving us. Sometimes we're carrying stories that aren't even ours. We're carrying stories that belong to our mother or our father, or even beyond them, or stories that are part of the collective that we don't really resonate with. But if that's our story that's flowing through our container, our body, it's not nourishing the life we want to live. And so this can cause a lot of frustration, feeling like, just feeling like the universe is against you, and things aren't going the way you want. You're not able to flow with life because you have this story that's not authentically yours. And sometimes we need that courage to transform into our original form, and we need a story that matches that. And we all have our own unique song, our own unique story that is filled with our essence. So as we share our stories, they kind of live on. You can imagine that stories flow. I always see the river Bóinn carrying all this wisdom, these stories, and sharing it on its journey with any beings that need these stories to keep going, to have hope, to keep hope and keep serving. So if you see your story like that, as one to be empowering and one that's woven with your own essence, your own authentic self, I think that's going to nourish yourself, and it's going to nourish your community, your deepest purpose, and also your relationships. So we can all learn from the creation story of the river Bóinn. I love Irish mythology. It's so interesting. I think it lives in all of us. So if you want to but if you want to try out a meditation and energy healing to be able to reset your story. So to be able to essentially let go and release the parts of you or the parts of your story that are no longer, that are ready to die, let them die. And those that are ready to be nourished and to be brought into being, to come forward and be celebrated, then you're welcome to check out my free meditation, which is called Embracing the Flow of Life with Goddess Bóinn. And that's available on YouTube. You can check it out in my bio. And if you have any questions or would like to do some one-on-one work with this type of energy from the land of Ireland, or just your own beautiful energy, then please feel free to send me a message.